she's so fine. Hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? This is one crazy story here coming out of Tampa, Florida. Came out on the 11th via the Daily Beast in an article wrote by Blake Montgomery. Want to thank my great friend Marie722 for sending it to me. Tampa woman accused of murdering her sister, burying her in the backyard. Good night, 11. A Florida woman has been accused of murdering her sister and burying her in her own backyard. Debra Patton faces charges of second-degree murder with a firearm and abusing a dead human body after the disappearance of her sister, Karen Pais, led police to a messy makeshift grave in the backyard of the Carrollwood home where the two sisters lived. Karen Pais, 66, went missing in late May. Debra Patton had moved in with Karen Pais 10 years ago, and the two had reportedly never gotten on well, but were at first able to cohabitate. They fell out about 5 years in, when Patton accused Pais of failing to give adequate care to their parents before they died. Tensions ran so high that friends of Karen Pais said they had repeatedly urged her to ask Debra Patton to leave. Each sister owned a gun. Friends of Karen Pais grew concerned after she stopped answering phone calls in late May, and police soon arrived at the home to do a welfare check, at which point they noticed a patch of upturned earth in the yard. Cathy Wynkoop, a friend of Karen Pais's, told the Tampa Bay Times, "We were telling them, you need to dig that up in the backyard because Karen would not have left it looking like that." Deputies discovered Karen Pais's body with a gunshot wound in the chest that indicated a homicide. Karen would say, "If you find me dead, it was Debra," Wynkoop said. Now, it forwarded me on to the Tampa Bay Times article. Now, this is a picture of Karen Pais. It says friends of her, Karen Pais, said she was a generous woman who didn't want to kick out her sister, despite the tension between the two women. The article goes on to say that, Karen Pais was telling her friends, if something happens to me, it was my sister. But it also goes into how they got this home. It says detectives eventually returned with a search warrant and started digging. The house that Pais shared with her sister, Debra Patton, had been in the family for decades. Their parents were Armando and Sophie Pais. Debra Patton was born in 1953, and Karen followed a little over a year later. Armando, the father, was a master sergeant in the U.S. Air Force, so he traveled a lot. Karen Pais attended Leto High School and later got a job as a transmission engineer for what was then GTE and later became Verizon. Everyone loved her because she was so generous and fun to be with, Nelson said. That's another picture of Karen Pais. It says records show the home on Cypress Park Street in the Carrollwood's Beacon Meadows community, just north of Gun Highway, was new when Karen Pais purchased it with her parents in 1983. All three lived there until her father died in 91. After that, Karen Pais lived there with her mother, Sophie, until she died in 2005. After retiring from Verizon as a manager, Karen Pais worked as a contract engineer for several years and retired for good about 7 years ago. Over the years, Karen Pais became a devoted Rays fan, often crossing Tampa Bay to catch games at Tropicana Field. She liked to hang out with friends at Rick's on the Bar, a bar on the Hillsborough River in Tampa, drinking her favorite cocktail, Jack Daniels and Diet Coke. She never married or had kids, but loved spending time with her friends' kids and grandchildren. She was a dog lover. She had a Bichon Frise poodle mix. Enjoyed working in the yard. Now, this is the home that the two shared. It says Pais was like an aunt to the lady Cathy Wynkoop, who was also referenced in the last article. It says when Cathy Wynkoop's parents moved into the same neighborhood and Pais helped with Cathy's calculus in college. She called me baby girl. Karen Patton, 67, previously worked as a telemarketer and is divorced, acquaintances said. Her son, an only child, died a few years ago, so neither one of them have any children, or living children, I should say. It says records show she lived in a Lutz apartment in the mid 2000s, and Pais's friends said Patton moved in with her sister about 2010. That's a picture of Debra Patton on the right. Sheesh. She seemed to be nice then, and everything seemed to be okay. Joel Wynkoop, Cathy Wynkoop's husband, recalled to Patton. But the two sisters had a falling out, fueled at least in part by hurtful accusations Debra Patton made about Karen Pais not properly caring for their parents. In fact, Nelson said Karen Pais was a dedicated caregiver to her mother, and Patton was hardly ever around. Pais told friends her sister had changed, she wouldn't talk to her, and rarely left the house. About 5 years ago, Karen Pais started occasionally saying that if she was ever found dead, her sister did it. We laughed but felt very uncomfortable about it, Joel Wynkoop said. Friends told the Tampa Bay Times that they didn't get any indication that Patton was physically violent toward her sister or that Karen Pais was in imminent danger. Sheriff's Office records going back to 2010 showed no prior calls for service related to domestic disputes. Patton has no prior arrest history in Florida. But Pais was a private person, and friends conceded they don't know everything that went on in the home. Both sisters did own a gun, and people who cared for Karen Pais were still concerned and urged her to tell Debra Patton to leave. I said, Karen, how can you stand to live like this? Joel Wynkoop recalled. She said, it bothers me, but I get used to it. She does her thing and I do mine. Karen would always say she's my sister. She's family. She's blood. She's got no place to go. In the last week of May, Karen Pais stopped returning call and text messages on May the 27th. A friend had texted her about scheduling a hair appointment together with an in-home stylist. I'll pass, came the reply, a curtness uncharacteristic of Karen Pais, who had requested the haircut in the first place. By then, her friends now believed she was already dead. That was probably Debra Patton answering with her personality, and it was very obvious. Nelson called the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office on May the 29th, a Saturday, asking the deputies to check on Karen Pais. When deputies visited later that day, Debra Patton invited them inside, according to an arrest report. Karen Pais's purse and wallet with cash, credit cards, and driver's license were in the house, and her Camry was parked there. Debra Patton told deputies she didn't know the last time she saw or spoke to her sister. When deputies went back the next day, Karen Pais's belongings were still at the house. Deputies also noticed the area of freshly disturbed dirt, about 6 feet long and 4 feet wide, in the backyard. Debra Patton said she didn't know where Karen Pais was. Of course she didn't. Detectives reviewed surveillance video captured by a camera on a house across the street that showed Pais outside her home for about an hour and a half on the morning of May the 24th. She was not seen in the video leaving the house between that time and May 29th, when deputies visited for the first time. The camera did capture Debra Patton taking several large black trash bags to the trash can during that time. During that same period, the video also showed Patton walking her dog and on 2 occasions leaving and returning in Karen Pais's car. A detective interviewed Debra Patton on May the 30th. She told them she lived with Karen Pais for about 10 years, but they don't talk to or communicate with each other. The defendant advised she recently had a personal issue with the victim, but did not want to disclose it, a detective wrote in the report. The next day, detectives got a search warrant and dug in the area for fresh dirt. About 2 foot down, they found something wrapped in black trash bags and cloth material, bound with bungee cords and duct tape. The odor of decomposition wafted in the air. When the Hillsborough Medical Examiner's Office arrived, authorities determined it was a body. There was a wound on the chest that indicated foul play. Around the body's neck was a gold necklace with the nameplate Karen. Detectives arrested Debra Patton that day, first on a charge of abusing a dead human body. Later, while unwrapping the body before an autopsy, the county's chief medical examiner found a pair of blood-covered latex gloves, according to the arrest report. An autopsy conducted the next day confirmed Karen Pais died from a gunshot wound to the chest, and the office ruled the death a homicide. Detectives added a charge of second-degree murder with a firearm, a crime punishable by up to 30 years in prison. The arrest report makes no mention of suspected murder weapon or motive. Well, obviously, if she has a gunshot wound to the chest, the murder weapon is a gun. Debra Patton remained in the Hillsborough County Jail on Thursday with a bail set at $255,000. She's being defended by a public defender. Wilder was among those who saw and spoke to Debra Patton on May the 29th. I said, "Debra, are you okay? Where's Karen?" And she just looked at me and said, "I don't know," Wilder said. Wilder described her demeanor as flat and motionless. Her eyes were empty, she said. It's like she has no soul, no remorse. Nelson and Wilder hosted a memorial for Karen Pais at their home on Saturday. Her friends toasted her with shots of Jack Daniels. "We did exactly what Karen wanted," Nelson said. "We partied, we laughed, we cried, we reminisced." A minister friend who attended spoke of forgiveness, of not letting hate for Debra Patton consume them. Focus instead on the love they had for Karen and she had for them. "It's very difficult," Wilder said. "In normal daily life, it keeps popping into your head. My friend is gone, and she was taken from us in such a horrible way." Yeah, it is hard to get past that. Here's the memorial that they set up for Karen Pais. And you can see her Bichon Frise poodle mix on her lap. And then they even have a little stuffed animal that looks like a Bichon Frise poodle mix at the bottom there. What a terrible story. I've seen sisters that haven't been able to get along. But damn, I haven't seen anything close to this. But it's a good thing that Karen Pais' friends were paying attention. Because had they not been, and had not seen the freshly uncovered earth, and thanks to Debra Patton not being able to physically do a better job, probably, they may never have found Karen. So, what a terrible story. And then they don't have any family. So, Debra Patton had one son. He's dead. Karen Pais had no ex-husband, no children, no nothing. So, essentially, she is the last remaining member of this family. It's really a sad story. I'm going to end this story on that note. But I definitely wanted to bring this to the channel. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.